Lucius Annaeus Seneca was born around 4 BCE in Córdoba, Hispania, modern-day Córdoba, Spain. His family belonged to the Roman upper class. His father, Seneca the Elder, was a famous teacher of rhetoric, and his mother, Helvia, was known for her intelligence and virtue. From a young age, Seneca was surrounded by books, debates, and ideas. He was a sickly child, often suffering from asthma and weakness, but his mind was bright and curious. While other boys played, Seneca preferred reading and thinking. His father hoped he would become a great orator, and his mother taught him the importance of character and kindness. These two influences, eloquence and morality, shaped his soul. The Roman Empire was growing stronger under Augustus, and even from far Hispania, the young Seneca dreamed of Rome, the city of power and wisdom. His early lessons in endurance and self-control would prepare him for a life full of challenges, success, and tragedy. When Seneca was a young boy, his aunt took him to Rome to study and give him a better education. The city amazed him. Its marble temples, crowded forums, and powerful senators were unlike anything he had ever seen. He studied rhetoric under famous teachers and learned philosophy from Stoic masters such as Attalus and Sotion. The Stoics taught that virtue is the only true good, and that a wise person remains calm through fortune and hardship alike. Seneca practiced this discipline, fasting and training his mind to overcome pain and fear. Yet in Rome, he also saw ambition, greed, and cruelty. The contrast between Stoic peace and Roman corruption fascinated him. By his 20s, Seneca had already gained a reputation for intelligence and talent. But his health continued to trouble him. His weak lungs and constant coughing reminded him that life was fragile. He began to believe that wisdom was not in power, but in understanding how to face suffering with dignity. Seneca's rise in Rome came through his gift for speaking. His speeches in the Senate were full of reason and power. He spoke about justice, morality, and the duty of leaders to serve the people. The Roman elite admired his sharp mind and deep moral tone. Yet, such talent also attracted jealousy. The emperor at the time, Caligula, was cruel and unstable. He heard of Seneca's popularity and began to see him as a threat. It is said that Caligula even ordered Seneca's execution, but changed his mind when he learned that Seneca was sick and not expected to live long. Seneca survived, a near brush with death that changed him. He realized that wisdom could protect him more than ambition ever could. His speeches became quieter, more thoughtful. He began writing about anger, destiny, and the human heart. The young orator had already tasted the fear of power, and it left a mark on his soul. Seneca devoted himself to philosophy. He studied the teachings of Stoicism, the belief that reason should rule emotion and that virtue is the highest good. He admired philosophers like Zeno and Chrysippus and began to write his own reflections. His early essays explored how to control anger and grief, how to live a meaningful life, and how to stay calm in the face of misfortune. "No man is free," he wrote, "who is a slave to his passions." His words were not dry theories. They came from real experience and fear. He had survived Caligula's madness and learned how dangerous emotions could be in politics. Stoicism became his armor. In a world ruled by emperors' moods, Seneca found freedom inside his own mind. He started to believe that philosophy was not just for scholars. It was a way to live, a guide for surviving the storms of fate. When Emperor Claudius came to power in 41 CE, Seneca's luck turned again. He was accused of having an affair with Julia Livilla, the sister of Caligula. Historians believe the charge was false, but Claudius's wife, Messalina, wanted him gone. Seneca was sentenced to exile on the island of Corsica. The punishment was harsh. He lost his home, his fortune, and his career. But on the lonely island, Seneca turned his suffering into strength. He wrote letters and essays on how to endure misfortune, including Consolation to Helvia, a moving letter to his mother. "No place is far from happiness," he wrote, "when the soul is at peace." His time in exile became his true education, the test of his philosophy. He learned that Stoicism was not only words but a way to survive. The sea winds of Corsica carried away the politician and left behind the philosopher. After 8 years on the island, Seneca's fate changed again. In 49 CE, the new empress, Agrippina the Younger, recalled him to Rome. She wanted Seneca to tutor her young son, Nero, the future emperor. Seneca returned wiser, calmer, and more experienced. His years of exile had taught him humility. As Nero's tutor, he saw an opportunity to shape the mind of a future ruler, to guide Rome through wisdom rather than blood. Agrippina admired Seneca's intellect and trusted him as an ally. His comeback was remarkable. The man once exiled as a criminal now stood at the center of power. But Rome was still the same, full of danger, greed, and pride. Seneca entered the palace with caution, knowing that wisdom and survival must walk hand in hand. He hoped to make Nero a just ruler, a dream that would soon be tested. Seneca began teaching Nero when the boy was still a teenager. He taught him about self-control, mercy, and justice. He encouraged Nero to listen to his conscience, not his desires. Seneca even wrote a book for him, De Clementia, on mercy, urging him to rule with kindness. When Nero became emperor at 17, Seneca guided him closely, along with the Praetorian Guard commander, Burrus. Under their advice, the early years of Nero's rule were peaceful. The empire prospered, and people praised Nero's calm and fair leadership. Seneca's dream seemed to come true, philosophy ruling politics. But Nero's heart slowly changed. The temptations of power, music, and fame began to control him. Seneca watched with growing fear as his student turned from wisdom toward vanity. He had shaped an emperor's mind, but could not save his soul. As Nero's rule continued, his behavior grew darker. He began ignoring Seneca's advice and listening to flatterers instead. He executed rivals, including his own stepbrother, Britannicus. He later ordered the death of his mother, Agrippina. Seneca was horrified. The teacher who once wrote about mercy was now watching cruelty unfold in front of him. He could not openly oppose Nero, doing so meant death. Yet, staying silent filled him with guilt. He began to withdraw from the palace, writing essays on peace of mind and the shortness of life. "It is not that we have a short life," he wrote, "but that we waste much of it." These words reflected his exhaustion and sadness. Seneca had hoped to guide an emperor to greatness, but instead, he was watching Rome slide into madness. Despite preaching simplicity, Seneca had grown rich and powerful under Nero's reign. He owned large estates, gardens, and even mines in Spain. His critics called him a hypocrite, a philosopher of poverty living in luxury. Seneca defended himself, saying that Stoicism did not forbid wealth. It only warned against being ruled by it. "The wise man uses riches, but is not their slave," he wrote. Yet deep down, he knew the truth. The court had changed him. He struggled between his teachings and his reality. His letters reveal his inner conflict, a man caught between ideals and survival. Seneca was not perfect. He was human. His wealth became both his shield and his burden, protecting him from Nero, but haunting his conscience. He longed to retire, to live simply and write in peace, but Nero would not let him go. When Burrus, the head of the Praetorian Guard, died, Seneca lost his last ally in the palace. Nero now ruled without restraint. Seneca's influence collapsed, and enemies whispered against him. He asked the emperor for permission to retire, claiming he was old and sick. Nero agreed politely, but secretly despised him. Seneca withdrew from public life, devoting his time to writing. His letters to Lucilius became his masterpiece, filled with reflections on virtue, friendship, death, and freedom. "Associate with people who make you better," he advised, "and welcome those you can improve." His letters revealed a mind seeking peace amid chaos. Though no longer in power, Seneca's pen became his weapon and his comfort. In 65 CE, a conspiracy was discovered against Nero. The plot's goal was to assassinate the emperor and replace him with a nobleman named Piso. Dozens were accused: senators, soldiers, and poets. Among them, Nero claimed, was Seneca. There was no proof, but Nero did not need it. The emperor had long feared his old teacher's wisdom and popularity. He sent soldiers to Seneca's villa with an order. The philosopher must take his own life. When a message arrived, Seneca received it calmly. "I am ready," he said. His friends and wife, Paulina, wept, but he comforted them. "Death is not an evil," he told them. "It is the end of our journey." Seneca prepared for death as he had prepared for life, with reason and calm. Surrounded by friends, he cut his veins and spoke softly as his blood flowed. When the bleeding was slow, he asked for poison and finally entered a warm bath to suffocate peacefully. His wife tried to join him in death, but Nero's guards stopped her. Seneca's last words were about freedom, that death frees the soul from tyranny. He died with courage and serenity, proving his philosophy through action. The emperor had destroyed his body, but not his peace. Seneca's death became a symbol of dignity and moral strength, the ultimate Stoic act. After his death, Seneca's writings spread throughout the empire. His essays on anger, on the shortness of life, on tranquility of mind, became guides for those seeking wisdom in chaos. He taught that happiness does not come from wealth or fame, but from self-mastery. "We suffer more in imagination than in reality," he wrote. His letters to Lucilius, written like personal reflections, became timeless lessons on how to live well. Some Romans criticized him for his contradictions, but most admired him for his honesty. Seneca's power was not in politics or fortune. It was in words that reached the hearts of generations to come. As centuries passed, Seneca's writings continued to inspire. During the Middle Ages, monks copied his texts, preserving them for future generations. In the Renaissance, thinkers rediscovered him as a voice of moral courage. His ideas shaped writers like Montaigne, Erasmus, and later philosophers such as Descartes. Even modern Stoics admire him for his practical wisdom. His thoughts on time, fear, and virtue remain as true today as they were in Rome. Seneca's life, though full of conflict and imperfection, showed that philosophy is not about being perfect. It's about striving to be better. He became a bridge between ancient wisdom and modern thought. Today, nearly 2,000 years later, Seneca the Younger still speaks to the world. His teachings on self-control, peace of mind, and moral strength guide millions. He showed that even in a corrupt world, one can live with dignity and courage. His life was a story of power, exile, temptation, and redemption. From a frail boy in Hispania to the teacher of an emperor, from a senator to a condemned man, Seneca lived every stage of the human experience. He taught that freedom lies not in wealth or power, but in mastering oneself. As long as we live, he wrote, let's learn to live. Seneca's wisdom endures, calm, fearless, and eternal.